I'm an ATM repair person in Chicago. There are strange rules to follow. The call arrived at 2:47 a.m. I had been drifting in and out of sleep on my couch, the dim glow of an infomercial flickering against the walls of my small apartment. My phone vibrated against the flimsy particle board coffee table, its screen displaying an unknown number. I hesitated before picking up. "This is Ryan," I answered. A mechanical voice crackled on the other end, distorted as if it were coming through an old speaker. "Cash dispenser error. Immediate service required. Bank of America, Main Street branch. Authorization code 713. I frowned, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. "Who is this?" Silence. The call abruptly disconnected, leaving my stomach twisting with unease. Typically, these service requests came through an automated dispatch, never from an unlisted number, but Bank of America paid well for late-night maintenance work, and I couldn't risk losing the contract. I exhaled sharply, grabbing my tool bag and technician ID card. Outside, Chicago felt like a city caught in limbo, part history, part something that refused to die. Rusted factories loomed in the distance like jagged teeth, and potholes swallowed entire sections of asphalt. By the time I reached the Main Street branch, the area was deserted. The bank was locked, its entrance sealed, but the ATM vestibule remained illuminated. The soft hum of the Bank of America sign buzzed over the sidewalk, casting a faint blue glow on the pavement. A low, electric hum filled the air, merging with the distant hum of the city. I parked across the street and stepped out of my truck. The scent of damp concrete and oxidized metal filled my nose. Something about the atmosphere felt off, indescribable, yet unsettling. Maybe it was the erratic flickering of the streetlights or the way my reflection in the ATM glass seemed just a fraction behind my real movements. Shaking off the feeling, I grabbed my tools and stepped inside. The ATM was still operational, its screen flashing an error message I had never encountered before: error code 0313, system recognition failure. That wasn't a standard error. Kneeling down, I pried open the maintenance panel and reached for my flashlight. That's when I saw it, a note tucked neatly inside the machine. It wasn't printed, nor was it issued by the company. It was handwritten, in my own handwriting. The paper was slightly crumpled and damp, its ink smeared as if written in a hurry. My name was at the top, scrawled in an unsteady, urgent script: "Ryan, read carefully. Follow the rules. Do not break them." A chill rippled down my spine as I scanned the list below. Rules for servicing the ATM. Never power down the machine, regardless of circumstances. If the screen displays anything besides an error message, do not engage, wait 60 seconds before proceeding. If cash dispenses unexpectedly, do not take it, do not touch it, do not acknowledge it. If the receipt printer activates but no receipt appears, leave immediately, your shift is over. If the machine dispenses a bill stained with blood, complete the repair within 10 minutes, failure is not an option. If someone knocks on the glass outside, do not look up. If they call your name, exit through the back door and never return. If at any moment the screen reflects your own image, stop all work, leave your tools behind, and vacate the premises. You are no longer the one performing the maintenance. My fingers trembled slightly as I gripped the note. This had to be some sort of prank, a cruel joke left behind by a previous technician. But the desperation in the words, the way the handwriting matched mine exactly, made it feel less like a joke and more like a warning. My gaze flickered to the security camera mounted in the corner of the vestibule. Its red light blinked lazily, indifferent to the fact that I was clutching a note allegedly written by me. I turned back to the ATM. The error 0313 message remained on the screen, the machine's soft hum filling the silence. Drawing in a deep breath, I shoved the note into my pocket and reached for my tool bag. I'd reboot the system, run a diagnostic, and leave as quickly as possible. But as I pried open the panel, the screen abruptly changed. The glow dimmed, revealing a dark reflection staring back at me, not of the room, not of the ceiling, just me. The problem was, I wasn't moving. My reflection remained perfectly still, even as my own chest rose and fell, my breath uneven. This had to be some kind of display malfunction, a refresh rate issue, maybe a glitch in the liquid crystal display. I raised a hesitant hand, but my reflection didn't respond. A cold, heavy sensation settled in my stomach. If the screen displays your reflection, stop work immediately, leave all tools behind, and exit the premises. You are no longer the one doing the repairs. I reached for my tool bag, my movements deliberate and slow. Then the ATM let out a sharp beep, the screen flickered, and in an instant, my reflection was gone. I exhaled in a rush, gripping the side of the machine to steady myself. Maybe I was just exhausted, too much caffeine, not enough rest. That had to be it. It had to be. Then the receipt printer whirred to life. Rule 4, if you hear the receipt printer activate but no receipt comes out, leave immediately, your shift is over. I took a step back. The machine clicked, yet nothing emerged. The narrow slot where the receipts should appear remained empty. A sharp, electric hum reverberated through the air, deep enough that I felt it in my teeth. Then, with a quiet mechanical sigh, the ATM released a single dollar bill. I stared at it. The bill was folded, its edges damp. A dark, reddish stain had seeped into the fibers of the paper. Blood. Rule 5. If the machine dispenses a bill with blood on it, you must complete the repair within 10 minutes. Do not fail. My pulse hammered against my ribs as I pulled out my phone to check the time, 3:06 a.m. If I followed the rules, that meant I had until 3:16 a.m. to finish the job. Except, what exactly was I repairing? The machine wasn't jammed, it wasn't out of service, it was doing this intentionally. I fumbled for my tools, sweat gathering on my forehead as I pried open the lower panel, searching for anything out of place. The circuits appeared normal, the cache vault was untouched, and the machine's internal log still displayed error code 0313, but it wasn't frozen. Then, the security camera flickered. My eyes snapped to the corner of the room, the red recording light had gone dark, and the feed was offline. I was no longer being watched, I was alone. The ATM beeped once more. The error message had vanished, replaced by a new prompt, "Do you accept?" The yes and no buttons blinked in a slow rhythm, waiting for input. I had no clue what would happen if I pressed yes, or worse, if I chose no. The note in my pocket had given me instructions, but what if those rules weren't meant to protect me? What if they were forcing me into a game I couldn't win? The machine clicked loudly. Another blood-stained bill slid out. I had 4 minutes remaining, I needed to decide. Then I noticed, only 3 minutes left. The ATM screen still displayed the same question while the yes and no buttons pulsed expectantly. Another crimson-streaked bill slid out. I didn't pick it up. I didn't even move. Deep in the back of my mind, an unsettling thought began forming. What happens if I don't respond? The ATM's hum deepened, like an aging engine struggling to function. The screen flickered, and then the security camera feed reappeared. A brief sense of relief washed over me. Then I saw the screen, but it wasn't showing the vestibule, it was showing the inside of the ATM. My stomach twisted. That shouldn't be possible. The grainy image displayed by the machine's internal LEDs revealed the interior of the cache vault, the circuit boards, the mechanical rollers, and then something moved. A shape, barely visible in the cramped space beneath the stacks of bills, a hand. I staggered back, my breath catching in my throat. The hand pressed against the interior glass of the vault, its fingers twitched. Something was inside the ATM. I swallowed hard, my pulse pounding in my ears. The hand pressed with more force, its skin unnaturally pale, stretched too thin, its knuckles prominent. Then, as I watched, the fingers moved, tapping out the exact same rhythm I had heard earlier. I gasped, stumbling back so quickly that I slammed into the opposite wall. The hand on the screen twitched again before sliding away, disappearing deeper into the machine. The ATM emitted a soft beep, and a new line of text appeared, "Do not keep me waiting." The yes and no buttons blinked at an increasing pace. I fumbled for my phone, desperately checking the time, 3:15 a.m., with just 1 minute remaining. The ATM beeped once more, and then the security feed shifted. The vestibule appeared on the screen, now displaying me standing in front of the ATM, but something was wrong. My reflection was in the glass of the ATM, yet in the footage, my reflection was facing the opposite direction. In the display, I wasn't looking at the machine, I was staring directly at myself. The figure on the screen cocked its head, then, in slow, unnatural motions, lifted its hand and pressed its fingers against the glass. I couldn't breathe. The fingers weren't on the exterior of the ATM, they were pressing against the inside. That wasn't my reflection. I was inside the machine. I stumbled backward, my thoughts fracturing under the impossibility of it all. The ATM whirred violently as the cash dispenser slid open once more. This time, no money emerged, only a crumpled receipt. My hands trembled as I reached for it. The paper was unnervingly cold to the touch, and there, printed in the same blocky, mechanical font, was a single message. "You have been approved." The ATM chimed one last time. Then the screen turned black. The vestibule lights flickered wildly before cutting out completely for the first time that night. I couldn't tell if I was still real. The darkness in the vestibule pulsed unevenly, casting jagged shadows that stretched along the walls. The ATM's display remained dark, lifeless, waiting. My grip tightened around the crumpled receipt, the words on it echoing in my mind. "You have been approved." Approved for what? I read a trembling hand across my face, my breath coming in shallow gasps. I had to leave. Then, the receipt printer activated again. A soft mechanical whir broke the silence, followed by the rhythmic clicking of rollers. Another slip of paper slid out. I didn't want to take it, but my hands moved involuntarily, fingers clutching the thin slip. The ink was smudged, slightly damp, like it had been printed on ancient, decaying stock. My eyes darted across the text, and my stomach dropped. Account balance, negative infinity. Negative infinity. I stared at the screen, my mind struggling to comprehend what I was seeing. That wasn't a valid number. That wasn't even possible. The ATM beeped once more, and a second receipt printed. My gut twisted violently as I hesitantly reached for it. The message was brief: insufficient funds. Transaction voided. I exhaled shakily as tension coiled tight in my chest. Something was deeply, terribly wrong. I attempted to step back, but my body felt impossibly sluggish, like I was caught in an invisible force dragging me toward the machine. Then the ATM whirred again. This time, it wasn't printing anything. The cash dispenser slid open, but instead of money, something else emerged: a hand. A pallid, emaciated hand pressed against the inside of the slot. I lurched backward, slamming against the glass doors of the vestibule, my breath catching in my throat. The fingers twitched, then started to push outward as if something was trying to claw its way out of the ATM. The hand bent at unnatural angles, the fingers curling as if tasting the air. The wrist followed, gaunt and sickly, extending further as though it didn't belong to anything human. Then, it gripped the edge of the machine and pulled. I swallowed a scream. A face began to emerge, devoid of eyes, mouthless, just a smooth, featureless surface stretching like a warped reflection trapped behind glass. The atmosphere thickened, turning suffocating. The walls of the vestibule seemed to press inward. The thing jerked forward, its head lurching toward me. Then the ATM screen blazed back to life, a single word burning in bold, glowing text: leave. The hand froze. The machine emitted a high-pitched whine, as if something inside was breaking down. Then, in an instant, the hand snapped back, and the eyeless, colorless face vanished. The ATM powered down. I stood there, my entire body quivering. The vestibule returned to silence. The screen displayed nothing but a dull, blank glow. I didn't wait to see if it would reactivate. I grabbed my tool bag, shoved open the door, and stumbled into the frigid Chicago night. The city remained eerily silent, yet something felt irreversibly altered, like it knew what I had witnessed, and worse, like I had left a part of myself inside that machine. The cold air smacked against my skin, sharp and unforgiving. I lingered on the cracked sidewalk, the flickering glow of the Bank of America sign barely holding steady above me. My breath was ragged, my fingers still trembling around my tool bag. I needed to leave. I turned toward my truck, parked beneath a broken streetlight. Then my phone rang, sharp, jarring against the stillness, vibrating against my thigh. I hesitated. Rule 6, if someone knocks on the glass outside, Do not look up. If they call your name, leave through the back exit and never return. No one had knocked, but someone was calling my name. I reached for my phone. The screen was black. No number was displayed, only a single word glowing in bold letters, ATM. My stomach dropped, and my throat went dry. The ringing persisted, relentless, drilling into my skull. I knew I shouldn't answer, I knew it, but my fingers ignored me, my thumb swiping across the screen of its own accord. I raised the phone to my ear. Dear friends, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. I dream of 1,000 subscribers very much. Silence. Not static, not dead air, just pure, oppressive nothingness. Then, a voice, not mine, not anyone I knew, yet eerily familiar, soft, mechanical, like a whispering artificial intelligence, breathed, "You withdrew yourself." My body locked in place. The voice wasn't coming through the phone, it was right next to my ear. I turned slowly. The Bank of America ATM screen had powered back on, and staring back at me was myself, no reflection, no security feed, just me. My face was frozen on the screen, silently screaming. My mouth was stretched unnaturally wide, yet no sound emerged. Then the face moved, not me, not the real me. The reflection in the screen blinked, and in a voice that didn't belong to me, it whispered my childhood nickname. My stomach churned. No one knew that name anymore, not here, not now. That name was from before, from when I was just a kid, from when my mother still. The screen flickered violently, displaying the words, "Transaction pending." I stumbled backward. No, I'm done with this. I turned and bolted, not toward my truck, but into the alley behind the bank, desperate to put distance between myself and the machine and the impossible things it was showing me. The street lights overhead crackled and flickered, as though the entire power grid was on the verge of failure. Behind me, the ATM beeped frantically, spitting out receipt after receipt onto the pavement, and then I heard footsteps, too close, too quick. I didn't stop running until I reached the end of the block, lungs burning, chest heaving. The street was deserted, no people, no traffic, yet the ATM screen was still on. Even from here, I could see it. The face on the screen was still watching me, its expression twisted into a grin. I didn't return to my truck. I didn't even glance back at the Bank of America ATM. I just walked, quickly, away from whatever was mimicking my face. The streets of Chicago were eerily quiet, but something felt wrong. The streetlights continued to flicker, their hum growing louder. The air felt too cold, too unnatural. I had no idea where I was heading. My body was moving on autopilot, putting as much distance as possible between me and whatever had just happened. Then, the receipt printer word, not from the ATM, but from my pocket. I froze. My trembling fingers reached in and pulled out a crumpled slip of paper. But I hadn't taken any receipts. I slowly unfolded it, my breath hitching in my throat. The text was different this time. It wasn't displaying my balance, it was displaying my fate. Your transaction has been processed. Replacement pending 3:33 a.m. Replacement? I yanked my phone out, 3:29 a.m. My heart pounded as I turned the corner, stepping into the eerie glow of a flickering neon sign for a 24-hour laundromat, empty and still. The glass door slid open with a soft chime, and the mixed scents of detergent and something metallic filled my nose. I didn't plan to stay, I just needed a moment to breathe. Then, a beep sounded. My head snapped toward the corner of the room, an ATM. I froze. This wasn't the same Bank of America machine, this was just a standard cash dispenser in a laundromat. But its screen was glowing, and it was waiting. I took hesitant steps forward, my pulse hammering. A new receipt printed, fluttering to the floor. I hesitated before reading it. Welcome, Ryan. Transaction complete. My stomach twisted as the laundromat suddenly felt too quiet. Then the machine clicked, a second receipt emerged. This time, I recognized the date, February 17th, 2083. A future withdrawal. 50 years from now. My skin prickled with an unnatural chill. I checked my phone again, 3:32 a.m. 1 minute left. I turned toward the door, but it didn't open. The fluorescent lights flickered violently as the laundromat's washing machines powered on one by one, spinning empty. Then the ATM ejected something else, a photograph. My hands shook as I picked it up. The edges were yellowed, curling with age, and in the image, I saw myself, but I was old. My face was weathered, my eyes hollow, my hair sparse, my hands wrinkled. I was inside the ATM, trapped. The last thing I saw before the laundromat plunged into darkness was my own reflection in the ATM screen, but the version of me inside was grinning. The laundromat was completely silent. The only source of light was the ATM screen, and my face was still displayed on it, not a reflection, not a video feed, but an aged version of myself, imprisoned behind the glass, staring blankly like a man peering through a window from the wrong side. My fists clenched. "No," I whispered. "This isn't real." The fluorescent lights flickered one last time, then died completely. The ATM emitted one final beep, and a new message appeared, "Final transaction processing. Please wait." I stumbled backward, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I checked my phone, 3:32 a.m. 1 minute left. I turned toward the glass entrance. The street outside lay empty, silent. Then, a shadow shifted, I froze. Something stood just beyond the glass. It appeared to be a man, or at least had the shape of one, same height as me, same build, but something was off. Its face was distorted, shifting like I was seeing it through rippling water. Then, slowly, it raised a hand and pressed its fingers against the door. A cold shiver crawled up my spine. The figure leaned closer, its features becoming clearer, and that's when I realized it was me. The same face, the same hands, the same clothes. I stumbled back. No, 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 no. The ATM beeped again, replacement initiated. I turned just in time to see the reflection in the screen stir. The version of me trapped inside the glass blinked sluggishly, as if waking from a deep slumber, then it smiled. The laundromat lights exploded. The machines rattled violently, their doors swinging open and slamming shut. I backed into the ATM, my pulse racing. Then the door slid open, and the thing outside stepped in. I couldn't move, it advanced in jagged, unnatural increments, like a corrupted video file skipping frames. I tried to run, but my legs refused to respond. I tried to scream, but my mouth wouldn't open, my limbs felt paralyzed, as if encased in invisible concrete. The figure, my replacement, stepped forward, and I was yanked backward, not by hands, but by something far stronger, an invisible force pulling me toward the screen. My vision blurred, the room stretched, and then I was inside, the cold glass enveloped me like water. The last thing I saw was my own body walking away, stepping out of the laundromat into my life, my world, and then the screen flickered off. I don't know how much time has passed. Sometimes, the screen comes back to life, and I can see the outside world, or at least, what I think is reality. Maybe I'm not real anymore. I hear receipts printing. I see transactions. People come and go, swiping their cards, entering their PINs. They never notice me. But every so often, someone hesitates, their gaze lingering on the screen a second too long, their expression shifting with unease, and for just a moment, they see me. I wait, because eventually, another name will print, another balance will read negative infinity, and then it will be their turn to be withdrawn. Friends, write your impressions of the story in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like us to get more content like this.